It's Dap It Up. It's D, and I'm joined by the captain of the special support section.
The one and only Gunnm.
This is my favorite podcast on the internet because today we'll cover some of the latest, greatest news in gaming, like a certain set of leaks that's been taking the gaming sphere by storm and the current state of the big three. But before we get into that, Gunnm, what's up with you?
Hasn't been too much going on. Work. Stress because of work, but thankfully holidays just about over. We got New Year's in a couple days, so there's that. I made it through. I lived.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations to me. We made it another year. Let's see. So, I'm just trying to catch up on games. Still playing certain games that I didn't expect that I'd still be playing, but is what it is. Still playing through Super Mario RPG. Still playing through Trails. At least like the post game stuff. Trying to I wasn't gonna complete it at first, but I'm like, this is the Cold Steel series / the Crossbell arcs like Swan Song, so may as well, right? Like, one of my all-time favorite franchises right now, so I mean, why not? So there's that. Been getting slowly more into fighting games, so funny enough, I played my homeboy in Street Fighter last night. And I was getting irritated because I was losing. I was like,
You can't do that.
I was like, what the fuck? When did you start playing this game? He was like, I always played this game. I'm like, what? Since when? So, you know me. Competitive McGee,
Competitive McGee, irrational McGee, can't admit when he's beating McGee.
I can admit when I'm getting beaten, right? But
yeah, right,
I'm just a very competitive person. I'm like, I'm gonna at least take one dub. I won maybe 2 games out of like the 10, 11 we played. I was not happy. Like, I gotta start playing Street Fighter.
Your ego is too swole, man.
I gotta start playing Street Fighter more. Now I don't got a choice.
You gotta check your ego. Is what you gotta do. I be trying to tell you.
You're right. You're right.
That's funny.
But now there's Street Fighter 2. I'm like, damn it. I don't want to fall behind. So there's that. But yeah, watching anime. I just finished JJK season 2. Y'all gotta watch that. That's woo. I won't say nothing. But
yeah, I don't have a point of reference. I haven't started season 1 yet.
But yeah, that JJK, man, woo boy, woo man, yeah. But other than that, I've been chilling. Still playing Overwatch, still playing, same old shit. So, yeah.
Cool. I just been raising puppies. I mean, that's it. Ain't nothing else to it. About 3 weeks old now. I mean, it was a smaller litter. So it's not extremely demanding, but anytime you're responsible for keeping something alive, it's going to take up like an amount of your time. I did have a funny little story to share with you. You remember how I had my son pick his Pokemon, his starter?
Yeah.
Out of those 3 stuffed starters. So my mom was asking me why I didn't want him to pick Bulbasaur. And I told her, I like Bulbasaur, but You know, Bulbasaur is for the weirdos, you know?
There's nothing
Bulbasaur is
wrong
for
with
the
Bulbasaur.
outcasts.
There's nothing wrong with
Bulbasaur is for
Bulbasaur.
name. Okay, think of the coolest people you ever met in your life.
Alright.
How many of them are Bulbasaur mains?
I mean, not too many, but
None of them. None of them. No. And the ones that are lame. Like Bulbasaur is for that weird kid with no friends who was like, you know what? I'm gonna be different. Now, that being said, Charmander is not exactly an inspired choice either. But Bulbasaur, I'd rather be the tryhard than the lame, you know? But anyway, all jokes aside, she asked me about it. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I like them. I like all of them. There's nothing wrong with any of them. But she said, oh, yeah, isn't Bulbasaur like poisonous or something? I was like, how do you know that? Like, I don't understand how she would have ever. She probably came across it because I always been into it. Maybe when I was a kid, she was watching me play or like saw one of my guides or something. It was like grass poison. But I was impressed by that. I was impressed. Yeah. I mean, yeah, man, that's really it. That's really it. Just, I have a full freaking house and I still find time to play the game and do the things I want to do. But my schedule is definitely more rigid than it was before.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. That's the irony of us starting this fighting game league we're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The details of which will roll out soon enough. I don't want to.
Yep.
I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves with it yet.
Yep. Coming soon. Coming soon.
Mm-hmm. Main goal is Tekken, but Gunnm and I were talking about rolling Street Fighter, Smash Bros, and who knows what else into it over time. Just want to get some people together that want to improve and have fun while doing it. But how about we get into what's out next week, man?
All right.
Actually, is anything out next week? It's the end of the year.
That's true. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think most of the big hitters are coming in late January. We'll skirt past that. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. Let's tap in. So today we got 2 topics, 3 technically, but the third we're going to reserve for its own broadcast. Which one you want to hit first, man? Because some huge upset is going on with these Insomniac leaks that happened maybe a week or 2 ago.
Oh yeah.
And I also thought the end of 2023 would be a good opportunity to discuss the state of the big 3, you know, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation.
Mm.
Of course, we'll get into some Game of the Year discussion, but again, that will be a separate video that we essentially attach to the end of this one.
Yeah. But yeah, so as far as the Insomniac stuff, like people pretty much, you know the story by now. Like there was a ransomware group that basically hacked Insomniac and put their data at ransom for $2 million, and obviously Sony and Insomniac weren't gonna pay that. So it's always in your best interest to just never indulge them. Just let the information get out.
Don't negotiate with terrorists.
Don't negotiate. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should always keep that policy. So basically they gave them a timeline, and then at the end of the timeline they started leaking stuff. So funny enough, like me and my homeboy, like we were up late at night, like looking at the leaks like as they were coming out, like literally. And it was it was some pretty, I don't want to say damaging stuff, but it was some pretty intrusive stuff. Like a lot of it of the stuff that they were putting out there, like they had a timeline going up to 2032, I believe, like of all their projects, like just just many like development videos of just, you know, of the Wolverine game early in development. And then there's like even I'm not too sure how to describe it, like there's actually a playable version of the game that people have been modding to a point to where like you just play it on PC. Like what they have been working on, like at least up to that point. It's just really sad to see, you know, something like this happen. It's just, you know, really just a growing trend of just like these malicious attacks just like coming against these studios that, you know, it's probably just going to keep becoming more of a trend like in the future. Like Take-Two's been hit. Ubisoft recently has been a target, which, you know, fortunately for them, they were able to fight it off. And no data was able to get stolen, like when somebody did get access to like their servers. But it's just, you know, it's just really like the stuff is just going to keep happening, especially with so much money like flowing around in the video game industry. Like obviously they're going to be targets. So these developers, like specifically, they definitely have to work on their cybersecurity, like for sure, and making sure, you know, everything's locked down, no sharing of passwords, like this and that. Like they got to like emphasize this stuff, like in their companies, like just, you know, they gotta work on their cybersecurity side of things. Like you could almost say like it's almost as important as like the development of the games that they're making themselves at this point. Just making sure everything's locked down.
The silver lining is them leaks was dope.
They were.
The things concerning the development timeline and Wolverine itself, I'm like, well, on the bright side, y'all got nothing to be ashamed of on that end. Sucks that all that personal information came to risk.
There's that too. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the two major things that stuck out to me about this is just how far people are willing to go to stir the pot. Like, and how many lives, maybe that's a bit dramatic, livelihoods they put at risk to do so. But on the other end of that, you know, on the topic of cybersecurity, I don't understand why. Are the hackers that good, or are people careless?
It's really just hackers will always find a way. Hackers really, like me having I'm not saying that I am associated with hackers, but you know, I have known
you are.
I have known a hacker or two in my day, and I will say this, they have told me this too. They will always find a way. There's always an exploit. There's always some kind of some sort of exploit that they can use to breach like some sort of system. There's a way, always, 100%, always. And even if there isn't a direct way, they can find ways to social engineer ways, like in the company, like fishing data out of people, and stuff. Getting credentials that they wouldn't normally be able to, and
How
have
do they do
access.
that though?
It's
Like what?
like there are some hackers, like they'll go straight to the building, like, and just find ways. Like it just depends, man. Like I've seen all kinds of different things that hackers do.
So you don't think there's any element of carelessness to this? And I'm not talking about this specific scenario, just I don't know, it seems like you'd be as guarded as humanly possible with sensitive information and data.
Yeah, like in some cases it is carelessness, but in others, like, it isn't. It just depends, like, how they got that data. It just depends. Like, if it was like an issue of an email being sent, like a phishing email being sent to somebody, and they didn't track the address line to see that it was from like Derek at Insomniac.com, and instead it said like Derek at Insomniac ABC123.com. Like, it can be as simple as like not seeing that. And
maybe I'm just paranoid, but I don't feel like I would ever fall for that.
Yeah.
Like, I always check the recipient and I don't know. It just seems obvious in this day and age, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course, like you said, I mean, hackers are resourceful, but just even in, my friends' lines of work, which I won't disclose, I've come across my fair share of fraudulent situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, how are people falling for some of this stuff?
Yeah, true.
Older people, I get.
Older people,
but growing up in a technological age, I'm just like, in the internet age specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like we got to be more careful.
Yeah, which I agree. But some of these attacks and some of the ways they get in, like, you just can't help it. But
give me examples though, because I'm intrigued by this. I'm not challenging you. I'm just like, so far you've been vague about it. But if you've known people who've done this stuff, not to put them on blast, or
I mean, like,
I don't care.
Like,
they're hackers.
I don't know all their ways, but like the internet, like if you use the internet, like even if you use like a closed like network, like there's always usually some kind of way you can like kind of brute force your way into some sort of network. There's always a way. Like, it's not like it all comes down to IP addresses and MAC addresses and that kind of thing. Like, there's always a way to find your way to like a specific system, and then as soon as you find your way to that system, as long as you have like the credentials, like you can get what you want.
I think more of these people need to use their powers for good.
Like
instead of whack stuff like, fishing for leaks.
Like I have never shared my IP address or anything ever online, and I had a hacker friend of mine like actually demonstrate, like, you know what, DDoS me. Let me see you try to do it. He actually DDoS my internet. Like, I couldn't use it for like 30 minutes. Like, he was just flooding it with bots, like with like protocol requests, like with bots, and I was like, shit. I don't know how you got my IP address, but I am not fucking with you.
What's this person's name again?
His name is no one. But
he better be using the powers for good, so it's a he. No.
but
no, I just feel like even if, say, you had a history of engaging in these activities, it would be so helpful to just educate people, on the steps they can take to protect themselves, rather than look at it as, oh, it's inevitable, they'll always find a way. Okay, then how can we make it harder?
Like, there are hackers out there that do like stress test like people's like actual security systems out there. So there are hackers that, you know, they do the opposite. They try and help people, like as far as like safeguarding like their servers and stuff. But you know, there'll always be bad actors out there. You know, if you have a skill and you're really good at it, like people will be like, you know, I could make like 100,000 here, you know, couple grand there, you know, just hacking people, stealing their information. Like, why not? There would be people.
But do you think it's true that they always get caught in the end? Statistically, I can't say one way or the other, but I've seen it happen too often to think people could just get off scot-free.
I will say this, like, law enforcement, especially FBI, like when it starts getting to like really huge amounts, they do catch on to people and find who they are. They just don't always act. There's so many of them, but
right.
But it just, you know, it just depends. Some of them, you know, they will get caught, put in jail, you know, and others, you know, they just get away. And then there are some that are just really good. They just never get caught because you can't ever find them. It comes down to like how good they are, honestly.
Yeah.
But for sure, like when you start stealing like a certain amount, like the government is definitely very much so aware, yeah. But regardless of that, though, I do want to talk a little bit more about kind of like the integrity of like kind of like covering this stuff, because one thing that I don't think people like kind of really talk enough about is that, you know, this stuff is kind of stolen. It's like stolen material. It's stolen IP. Like these people were basically like ransacked for their own data, had it put up for ransom, and they would say, pay up or we're putting this shit out there. Like, you know, I think it's kind of messed up that, you know, people are just, you know, which, you know, I don't think it's like a terrible thing to look. It's just like covering it that, you know, I really more so think, you know, kind of not like the greatest thing to do. Like, you know, like they're doing this and Wolverine, and it's like, and there's some people like they're putting out opinions on a game that's still early in development. They're like, oh, it's basically like God of War, but Wolverine. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is like early shit. Like, this game might look totally different from the way it looks now, like come time like of release. Like people are trying to like put it, like the problem I really have with it, like with people like looking at it, especially since it's stolen data, is like they trying to put Insomniac as far as like this game like in a box. Like, oh, it's basically Spider-Man. Oh, it's basically God of War. Like, it's
I don't think
like,
that's most people though.
Like, I don't know. Like everyone has like some sort of like opinion on it, and it's like, dude, it's like early development footage.
Right, but my counter to that, whether it was early or whether the game went gold, people are gonna have those opinions regardless.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know, me personally, I think it depends on your intent. You know, if you cover this information for profit, I can't necessarily say that's good or bad. I don't really care, you know, because no one's being harmed in the process. But similar to what you say, if you use it to start a smear campaign against the product like 3-4 years before it even
Yeah.
comes out, then it's not productive. That being said, I really don't think that's most people, because I've seen that rhetoric, and that's not to excuse the segment of people who are doing that. I think most people, when they see something new and shiny, or new and unpolished in this case, when they see something new, they're gonna look at it. I don't think it's realistic to expect people to hear Destiny 3 gets leaked, in some example, and I'm not gonna look at it off principle. Of course you're gonna look at it. Every single person who has access to it is gonna look at it. It's just, I think, if you consider yourself a gaming journalist or whatever, the impetus falls onto you to be mindful of your influence, right? You have to be mindful, because if, say, you just mentioned those people who are like, it's just like God of War, it's Wolverine meets God of War, whatever, right? If those same people have a platform with thousands, tens of thousands, millions of followers, then they could potentially damage the overall reception of the game before it even comes into play. But I'm not really on my high horse about, oh, something got leaked, a video game got leaked, development plans got leaked, don't look at it. Of course I'm gonna look at it. It's a hobby. This is what I'm interested in. I want to know what's going on. I'm not going to redistribute the information. I'm not going to post screen caps of the information, but I'm going to indulge in it just like everyone else. So I think what bothers me more than anything is just the nature of how the information was accessed.
Yeah.
And which I know you agree with.
Yeah.
It's truly a sinister practice, but me personally, I'm not profiting off of it.
Yeah.
I'm not adding to it. All I can say is I like what I saw.
Yeah.
So
especially unfortunate, because there were even devs like their information that don't even work there anymore. Like their information got taken.
Now that's a bridge too far. That's an Elden bridge too far. That's the part of it all that I'm like, really? Like, yo, you selling people out for money.
Yeah.
Doxing people for money. You know what I mean? It's truly disgusting behavior.
Yeah, that's gonna
be. I don't think
that's gonna be all over the deep web.
Dude, I think a lot of people aren't removing the personal information from the game details, which I mean, I can understand lumping it all under one umbrella. I just think it's a little more nuanced than that, because what I hear from a lot of developers, not necessarily Insomniac in this case, but others who've been privy to the situation, is you don't like that spotlight being stolen from you. You don't like when things are presented before you feel it's ready to show. You don't like to be robbed of that moment. I understand that 100%. I truly do. However, there's a cap to my level of sympathy, because everything I saw and the overall reception of my corner of the internet has been, we're excited. This is cool. Oh, you're doing this, this, and this. That's awesome. So at the end of the day, it's out there now. I mean, no need to scrap anything. Just proceed as intended. Proceed as intended. I mean, take some steps to figure out why this happened. But screw the guys who hacked them in the first place.
So,
I mean,
So yeah. So one point I did.
Hopefully they get caught.
The one point I did mention online was that they didn't just pick a fight with Sony and Insomniac. They picked a fight with Disney. They picked a fight with Disney because that's their IP. So Disney does have a case against these people that went after them. They can definitely.
I thought it was Sony though, unless it traded hands, because you remember the Spider-Man, X-Men IPs have been kind of murky. I think Sony had marketing rights to them for a long time. That doesn't make it better. Yeah. I mean, because it's either Sony or Disney or some combination that you pick in a fight with.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, especially if it's well, then I'm not 100% sure. But if Disney does at all have a hand in this, like, they will find you.
Well, you see what happened to the guy that hacked Rockstar, the guy that the GTA 6 stuff.
Oh yeah, they found him.
Yeah, nah. I mean, it's. I don't think you get away with a scheme this high in profile. I don't think you do.
Yeah,
I've yet to see it happen.
Oh yeah.
I hope they got their doors boarded.
I hope they know how to cover their tracks well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
They take that man to court. Oh God.
Yeah. Stop hacking people, y'all.
Decades.
Stop hacking people.
Look at that, decades in prison.
Yeah, they hacking everybody out here.
Well, actually, the Take-Two guy didn't get sent to prison. He got put in I guess like a mental institution, and they're not letting him out. And they're not letting him out until he agrees to just stop hacking. I guess. I think.
What was the term they used though? Did they say medical?
They said like
prison.
They said like a hospital.
Hospital.
I heard, but I thought it was like a mental hospital. I'm not even sure.
It is, but they worded it a certain way. The language was kind of flowery. I just don't remember what they said.
But essentially, they could hold him there like for life.
I mean, he said he's gonna keep hacking.
Yeah. He was like, I'm gonna do it again if you let me out of here. I was like, okay.
Imagine being that lost. Like that twisted, bro. What is wrong with you? How stupid are you?
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's crazy.
I speak on behalf of all of Dap It Up. Stop hacking.
At least the wrong people.
No, don't hack. Just stop. Just stop doing it. Just no hacking. I'm like, if you're gonna do it, to your point, if you're gonna do it, man, at least like be productive. Be like, help people. You know what I'm saying? And that don't mean hack rich people and take their money. That's stupid. But speaking of rich people, what Nintendo got going on?
What Nintendo got going on? Well, we're still trying to figure out, still at this stage, what this Switch 2 is going to be. Is it going to be a handheld? Is it going to be basically an upgraded Switch? Is it going to be a home console?
Mm-hmm.
Is the Switch 2 going to be a cloud fucking game system? Who knows? Who knows at this point? Who knows what they're doing?
It won't be that. It won't be cloud.
I hope not. God,
I can assure you that.
Holy shit, because it'd be terrible.
I can assure you it will not be. Look, I can't assure you anything with Nintendo. All I'm gonna say is, if the Switch 2 is not Switch 2.0, I don't know anymore, bro.
The Switch 2 might be just a backbone for your phone. Who knows?
Look,
who knows?
If it's not literally what SNES, if it's Super Switch, call it Super Switch. If it's not what SNES was to NES, I don't understand. I can say I haven't understood Nintendo for at least a decade now. But at least when the Switch came around, we were like, oh man, they caught lightning in a bottle, didn't they? But I'm like, bro, as lucrative as this venture has been, just build on it. Just, you don't have to be different. You don't have to be fancy. You don't have to be cute. You got something. Just keep building on it. Because they cornered the mobile market. Like, and not, you know what I mean? Handheld market, I should say. I'm like, bruh, just upgrade what you have. Even if the Switch 2 is only as powerful as, say, an Xbox Series S or something, which I still feel is asking a lot. Great. Wonderful. Upward trajectory. That's all I'm trying to see.
Yeah. Like, honestly, now that I said the backbone thing, that actually would be a good idea. A game system that just works with any phone. Like, its power.
You said it'd be a good idea?
Yeah, like its power would be limited, like, to like your phone, right? Like how strong your phone is, but that'd be an interesting idea. That'd be an interesting idea, like just a game console that you could just attach to any phone, like any phone, and it just works. That'd be interesting.
So would it still have a dock?
No. Well,
you are like the biggest weirdo when it comes to Nintendo products, bro. What? Did you hear yourself? You want to play Nintendo games on your phone? On your broken Android phone?
Man, you heard of Android hater. Get him.
Honestly, I don't care. No, I'm gonna give y'all the backstory. He was the hater first. He always got something to say. I got an iPhone. This man always has something to say about it. I'm like, why you pocket watching, bro? Why you in my pocket? Why you worried about what's on my hip? But, man, so you really are more interested in that. You didn't say this, but I want to ask, are you more interested in the concept of a Nintendo backbone, whatever you said, than a Switch 2? Just like a basic, it's a Switch Pro Plus.
Well, I kind of just said it more so as like kind of like a possible concept that they could do, but no, I'd rather them just do a Switch 2.
What has the success been of their mobile games? Like, what was that, Mario Run or Mario whatever that was? It doesn't seem like they really broke into the market the way they thought they would.
They only really have one successful one. It's that Fire Emblem game. I forget the name of it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they make I think they make triple digits in the millions with that game every year. That's why they keep making content for it. I think it's the only game they keep making content for. But aside from that, we don't know what Nintendo's cooking up, but they're cooking up something. All I know is I want my Metroid Prime 4. I think we all want our Metroid Prime 4. Just release the shit and announce this fucking game system. Hopefully it's backwards compatible. I don't see why.
That is the number one thing for me. On the topic of Metroid, that game ain't never coming out. I'm convinced it's not coming out until I'm playing it. Until I lay my eyes upon that game. It
doesn't exist.
Nope.
There's no Metroid Prime 4.
As much as I want it. Even if it, that game, I want it to be more like 1 and 2 than 3. Whenever it does come out. Mm-hmm. You know what would be an interesting concept? I mean, what was that one? Metroid Other M wasn't great, but it'd be cool if they combined the sort of 2D Metroid Dread gameplay with the Metroid Prime gameplay. I don't know how, but then you got the best of both worlds.
They should do a Redux. on other M in general.
Or just let it be dead. Just don't even touch it. Just forget it happened. How about that?
It just never
How about
happened.
we just forget it happened? Yeah, no. It doesn't exist.
I don't even think Metroid
Just like
fans,
this game doesn't exist.
I don't even think Metroid fans acknowledge the lore of that game. Which is funny.
Bro. It's not canon. It's not canon.
They're like, it ain't canon. Well, no, that game don't exist. It ain't real.
Yeah. You mentioned backwards compatibility. Look, man. I don't know what to think at this point. I have my grievances with each of the big three. But one thing I applaud Xbox for that I have always just hated Nintendo for is their treatment of a forwards compatible ecosystem. Because, bro, count on your hand the amount of times you bought Super Mario Bros. It's like, Jesus Christ. People have bought the original game, played the arcade version of the game, bought the re-release on the Game Boy Advance.
And now they have a new scheme. You can keep these games in your library forever if you pay us every month.
Exactly. Keep it forever on your Switch. Specifically on your Switch. Right? But then what happens when they stop supporting the Switch? What happens when the Switch goes the way of the 3DS?
I mean, they seem to be trying to push this NSO stuff onto the Nets system too.
I hope so.
So it'll still be there. I just hope, hopefully these libraries get bigger. That's all I gotta say, because they're still.
I just remember, but here's the thing, though. I love the library as it is. I want to continue to see it grow, but the reason I can appreciate it is because I approached it under the loose assumption that I would continue to be able to access these games in the future. So Switch 2, Switch whatever comes out, Switch Pro Plus, whatever it is, right? As long as I can play my Paper Mario, my Ocarina of Times, I collect these older games, but despite me collecting them, me playing them is gonna be exclusive to whatever hardware that's up to date and available. I don't want to refurbish my Nintendo 64 only for it to break down again in a few years. The cartridges, the original versions of these games, I just leave those alone. I collect them for posterity. But give me an easy route to these games that doesn't involve me having to turn on my Wii and play Virtual Console. I was like, dude, why do I have a separate account for my Wii, my 3DS, and my Switch? It's just, I hope you're right, and the plan is to carry forward with that. But let's get off. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I believe they will, because they have at shareholders meeting stated such, they plan to continue supporting this NSL stuff, and they want it to keep going into the future.
Yeah, I'm not buying Paper Mario again, bro.
Yeah, they'd rather you just pay $50 a year for it and get your money.
Here's the thing. The value cannot be understated. It can't. It is kind of a wow. So if I stop paying y'all, I just can't access this game no more, despite how much money I put in. But when you think about what you get for that price, and I said this when the library was half of what it is now. You're more than getting what you pay for. $70 a year, bruh. No, it pays for itself a dozen times over. especially with what you'd be paying just to get access to a Paper Mario or
Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. 3, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that all goes out the window if they make you make a new Nintendo Online account with the next system, which I think they'd be fools to do at this point. But speaking of fools, a lot of people seem to think Blade is going to be a PlayStation game. I had to get on the Xbox some kind of way, man.
Ooh.
Bro, you ain't seen the discourse online.
Well, they can happily be delusional.
Yeah. I think of course, Xbox.
You think a game made by Arcade that they studio they paid for is gonna come out on the PlayStation?
Because you remember me and you talked about it before, but then I had to remind you of the Spider-Man exclusivity situation.
Yeah.
And like the more thought you put into it, it's like, well, who's to say a property such as Blade, which I would argue this project is injecting more life into than Blade has seen in years. Especially if they line it up with the theatrical release. Like, bro, it ain't. Why can't Xbox had it? Like, give them their moment. Give them their thing, because everybody was always. Now, look, I'm not trying to start a console war, right? Because Xbox is the king of, hey, we're going to do this, and then it taken 800 years for them to do it. But everybody was saying no games, no games, no games. Now what are they saying? They didn't do it organically. They're buying all the. When you have all that money, of course you can buy and mismanage. Mismanage what, bro? We've barely seen the fruits of the labors of all these studios they're acquiring.
Like, we have had Starfield release. That's about it. And Hi-Fi
Rush.
And
Redfall was abysmal, but I mean, you move on.
We've had 3 games release. Like, chillax, people.
Yeah, Knack was abysmal too, but what was that other thing? That wasn't a Nintendo exclusive. I was thinking of Balan Wonderland or whatever. But these things happen. It's Redfall is like the only case, only recent case I can think of, besides Starfield, depending who you ask, where a game comes out and is bad, and just people go out of their way to continue to dwell on it, even after it's been acknowledged like it was a misstep. But off of all of that, Blade, I think it'd be silly to make that game multi-platform. It would go against what Xbox is trying to accomplish.
Yep.
Give all the, how we got that inside joke that black people don't like Xbox because everybody grew up with a PlayStation. I'm like, here you go. There, get all the dudes who be like, no, I'm good, I don't want an Xbox. Give them a reason to buy one.
I don't know. It's usually like the black people that usually be more like about the Xbox. It seemed like to me.
I guess it depends who you ask, because all the people we grew up around, like from our generation.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about younger. I'm talking about guys from our generation who grew up on Tekken and Spyro and Crash and all of that.
Yeah.
When the Xbox came into the picture, I seen all this, and these are people I know personally, so maybe it's just shaped by my own experience. It's like you ask people, you want to try Halo? You want to try Gears? No, that's Xbox. Okay. I always been on PlayStation. Like, okay, so you can't branch out and try something else?
That's what I'd be saying.
I feel like younger people are more, I don't know if they're more in the know, They're more exposed. I don't know what it is, but it seems like all the old heads, they're like, I got my console. That's what I'm gonna play.
That's so stupid. To me,
I said old heads like we older. You know what I mean?
I know what you. I know.
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like Microsoft's future's looking pretty bright. They got Hellblade 2. They got Blade. They got all those other, like Fable 2 and all, well, not Fable 2, but that new Fable game, like all that other stuff, like that they showed in that showcase like earlier this year coming. Like there's a lot of, they got a lot of stuff cooking. And some of that stuff coming to Game Pass too. Like that well actually it's already out. That Like a Dragon game.
Yep.
A lot of Sega stuff, like that Persona 3 game coming out next year. Game Pass.
That's crazy too. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Game Pass at launch. But yeah, well, again, hopefully hopefully my relatives and associates who hate on Xbox for the sake of hating on it, they'll see Blade and kind of change their tune a bit.
They were like, oh, Blade will be the Xbox like Spider-Man is the PlayStation. We'll see. I have a feeling like they gonna do some work on it. Yeah,
we'll see. My number one, before we move on to PlayStation, in fact, my number one grievance with Spider-Man, I've said this before, I like the game a lot, bordering on love. I love the original Marvel Spider-Man 2. It's like, you know how everybody says Sony games are walking simulators? I think that's a vast reduction of those games, but when you really think about it, their bread and butter are these third-person action games with loose RPG elements. And Spider-Man 2 it's a great sequel in that it takes the core concepts of the first game and just adds more. You know, it's like Arkham City to Arkham Asylum. But there was no point in playing Spider-Man 2 where I felt I saw anything I've never seen before. And that's not me being a hater. That's just me. It's just kind of been on my mind since the game of the year discussion. Like, people are saying Spider-Man got robbed. I'm like, robbed?
No, I don't think so.
Robbed? I feel the same way.
Considering the competition? No.
Yes. I mean, and Tears of the Kingdom is another example. It's like that game, and I'd say maybe more so than Spider-Man. You know, that game deserves some shine, but it's also, it didn't reinvent the wheel. It added stuff that was, you know, the whole making vehicles out of random parts and the physics system. You know, there's nothing else like it. And it's often imitated, but it's not like the jump from Twilight Princess to Breath of the Wild. You know what I mean? The same way Spider-Man isn't like the jump from the Spider-Man 2, like on GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2, to Marvel Spider-Man. But I feel like this is a perspective that only comes with years and years and years of playing video games and like growing up with them, because you know we've been playing games since we were small children that probably shouldn't even been playing them yet.
Yeah,
like they were formative for us. So, and I haven't, unlike you, I haven't really taken any breaks from any particular sector of gaming. So I know you have deeper appreciation for games like Spider-Man than I do. But I think I'm getting to the point where, bro, I'm still excited for what's to come. But when I see the sensationalism over some of these games, especially around Game of the Year time, I'm like, really though?
Everybody props up them PlayStation titles. They're like, it's Game of the Year. It's definitely Game of the Year. Man. This game's so good.
See, I say all that knowing Blade. We don't know nothing about Blade. Blade could be trash. Blade could legitimately be a bad game. Who knows, bro? You know, but I'm glad that they're trying new things. That's one thing I can give Xbox is at least the variety of stuff that's on the horizon piques my interest. And no pun intended. But speaking of Horizon, let's talk about Sony. Talk about what they got coming up. And what they done this year.
Yeah, let's talk about Sony. Let's talk about how they don't know what the fuck to do anymore, and they're pretty much in shambles, and they're totally, like, they're not making it obvious, but they're totally backtracking on the live service angle that they were going for at first, and they might possibly be regretting that purchase of Bungie. And want me to keep going?
You can stop. Because it, you know, we're agnostic, man. Like, I feel like I can speak for us both and say, we play anything. We play whatever is presented to us. If you say it's good, I'm going to give it a try. If it's on Switch, if it's on PlayStation, if it's on Xbox. But we have to start keeping the same energy for all of these companies.
Exactly.
Keep the same energy. Like, I will be the first to admit, I like Starfield. Don't love it. Don't think it's fantastic. I think it's a passable experience. I think Skyrim blows it out of the water. I think the games it tries to be blows it out of the water. But all this, like, discourse about the game being horrendous, and I'm like,
I know, I was seeing
y'all are real dramatic. People are real sensitive now.
Did you see the average review score on Steam? Like, I was shocked. It was like mostly negative.
That's what I'm saying, you know. But you know that started happening before the game even came out. And I'm not about to engage in a conversation about Xbox tax or whatever. It goes across the board. I'm like, if a company releases a dull, uninspired game, acknowledge it as such. And the people who like it, good for them. Let them like it. But it shouldn't matter what your connection is to that company or lack thereof. Because some people, they see Nintendo coming out with a game, I'm straight. They see Xbox is coming out with a game, and they find any excuse not to play it. Then they see PlayStation come out with a game, and they're like, ooh.
They're like, oh my God.
The next best thing, even though it's the same game I just played 3 times in the form of Last of Us, Horizon, and God of War, you know? And I like those games to varying degrees. I love God of War, but come on, bro.
It just feels like it's been a pattern, like, for the past, like, I want to say 7 years. Like, they've been so reliant on these same franchises. Horizon, Spider-Man, God of War. Horizon, Spider-Man, God of War. I mean, you did have a Ratchet game in between that, but it's mostly, but it's mostly, and I guess there was Returnal too. I guess there's that, but it's still just Horizon, God of War, and Spider-Man. It's like they're not innovating, and that's my problem. Like, they have a treasure trove of franchises. Do you remember Resistance? That shit used to be amazing. Resistance.
It's funny you say that. Funny you say that, because I was thinking in my head, because again, bro, I play everything. But I was thinking, what is the most memorable era of PlayStation for me? And it has to be the PS2 era. See, you say, look, PS3, right? Objectively speaking, I feel PS3 was like, it was the peak. But for me, PS2 was the most formative. Because PS2, you had God of War.
Because you had more creative stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the main thing. That's the main thing. There was just so much to choose from, and a lot of their IP, as you say, originated in that era. Even if you want to say PS2 to PS3.
Mm-hmm.
Like that range of time, that's really when it was like, oh man, that's when people started saying, granted, Xbox, when did the original Xbox coincided with the GameCube and the PS2. So it was further along in the PS2 generation and around the PS3 generation that people started saying, oh, Xbox ain't got no IP, Xbox ain't got no games. Yeah. Just because of the sheer amount of variety that PlayStation was spitting out. Now, full circle, every other game is the same thing.
It's crazy. Like,
it's the same thing. I'm glad they're backtracking on the live service thing. I'm just like, can we be honest about it though? Can we acknowledge it? Because people, man, as soon as Nintendo or Xbox makes a slightly questionable move, everybody like, that's why I don't play those games. PlayStation does something. Well, I mean, they've earned it. They've been on top of the market for so long. I mean, give them a little room, guys. Shut up. I'm so sick of people, bro.
Like, I like how when Hi-Fi Rush came out, I was like, people were shocked that people were still making games like that. Like, we haven't seen a game like that creative, like that off the wall, like in years.
Would you say that that's part of why you're so excited for these Sega remakes? Because when we were back in my day, when we were kids, just, man, we're not completely lacking for creativity now. I wouldn't say that. But the big three, let's stick to the big three. Any exclusive game on the docket could have been anything under the sun. It could have been a shooter. It could have been a puzzle game. It could have been whatever, bro. Like just back in the day, you had anything from Okami to Shadow of the Colossus,
bro.
To Tekken,
Shadow of the Colossus, bro. Like, the thing that makes me so mad with Sony too is that they have a treasure trove of fucking shooters that they could just call back to and just bring back at any time, and it will probably sell millions of copies. Yes, bring back Resistance. Bring back Resistance. What are you doing?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's like they're so focused on these like narrative, like almost movie-like experiences, and just emulating that because one of them did really well. And it's like, why does every single game have to be like almost like a cookie cutter copy of this?
See, there was a time.
Everything doesn't have to be The Last of Us, Sony. It doesn't.
I mean, you cooking, bro, because there used to be a point in time where that is what you waited for. That's what made it all worth it. That was the bookend. In October, like Q4, there was always that big AAA cinematic experience, just full to the brim of set pieces. But now that's like every other game. I'm like, show me something different, man. Show me some stretch marks. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
Like, yeah. But, okay. How do you feel? Because after this session, we're going to talk about our thoughts of everything that came out this year. Have our own first annual Dap It Up Game of the Year show.
Heavenly Sword 2!
How do you feel about the state of the industry overall? Like, just Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, individually aside, do you think things are moving in a good direction or a bad direction?
Bad.
Just bad overall.
Bad. So Nintendo is kind of like creating like their own little ecosystem. They're in their own little world, honestly, which is fine because they're like the way they're moving, like they're trying to move towards being more like an entertainment company than anything. They're trying to be the next Disney, honestly, which is fine because they have all the resources available to them, especially as far as IP to do so. So they can do it for sure. They can go from a double-digit earning company where they're earning like double digits as far as like billions of dollars to triple easily. They could probably get up there as far as Sony, as far as like how much revenue they bring in, but I think they're gonna just keep growing and growing like over the next decade. But anyways, they're honestly in their own little ecosystem. So they're doing
a toy company,
or
entertainment company. Maybe we should say that.
Yeah. So they're doing their own thing. But as far as like the other two, Sony has been doing too well for too long, and obviously they've been complacent in that. So
I know people personally who vehemently disagree with that statement, and I can't understand how you could see it otherwise. What else do you call it?
Like they've been complacent. Like they've been winning like between them and Xbox, because even the government for the majority of that merger case with Xbox, like they were trying to paint Nintendo as a non-competitor, so it's just really like Sony and Microsoft. So between the two of them, like Sony's been doing too well for too long. Like, what generation was that? Generation 7 with the PS3 and that in the 360? Like for a long
PS3,
time.
I think 7, yeah.
For a long time, like the 360 was like really on top for a long time. Like through that generation. Like the PS3 only really like started to overtake them because of unfortunately the red ring situation, like towards the end of that generation. But it's like they started like doing really well for so long that they just stopped innovating. And it's just like, how do you not see it like with the type of games that they keep like making in-house? Like time after time again, like Horizon, Spider-Man, like The Last of Us, like to a degree, they're very similar in a lot of ways. Very similar. At least as far as like their philosophy towards like, very narrative driven experiences. Like they're very similar. Like the only games that we still see that are at least a little bit different are Ratchet. I guess there was Returnal, which came out, that was nice. What else that's come out in the past 7 years?
Gran Turismo.
Oh god.
I mean, there are examples, but these aren't the marquee that we're talking about either.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, like Xbox has just been having trouble, at least for a long time, like getting good games out. Like everybody thought like Halo Infinite was gonna be, that game. And we saw how that ended up. So like,
one thing's for certain. We will be discussing the games that are on the horizon very soon. So, like I said, we're going to split this into sort of a two-parter. The second part, in which we cover the topic of the week, was just going to be Game of the Year. Our first annual Dap It Up Game of the Year show. We're going to talk about the games we played, why Baldur's Gate is the best, and what we're looking forward to going into 2024. But as far as part one, that's a wrap.
That is a wrap. Got you guys in the next video.